All right, well, it is 4:31. Who's ready to talk about marketing plans? Something really exciting to talk about here this afternoon. So as we're getting kind of settled back in, there's many of you, I'd say probably a solid 80 or 90% of you were here for the session from 1 to 4 o'clock. So my sincerest apologies. You're going to have to hear some of the same jokes, some of the same tidbits about myself, but for the benefit of the folks who are just joining us, I don't want to skip over some of the standard introduction stuff. So my name is Ruth Inman. I'm an assistant professor in agricultural communications and a digital media extension specialist at Oklahoma State University. So I have a really cool job where I get to split my time between teaching students to be professional marketing communicators, students who want to do some of the things that we're learning about today for their full-time jobs. But then also I get to do that extension mission of the university where I get to extend that knowledge and help people like you and help businesses and organizations achieve some of their strategic goals with the help of marketing communications. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds in that. And I truly, truly enjoy getting out of the classroom and doing stuff like this today. So for the next couple of hours, we're going to settle in and we are going to go through a process of developing a marketing plan, what I've really tried to do today is I've tried to find a balance between something that is robust and useful, but not overwhelming. And we'll get to that in a little bit about how it can become easily so overwhelming. And I love this quote from Abraham Lincoln. I had a quote earlier about graphic design, and I like this one about marketing. In the context of marketing, when we think about this, if Abe Lincoln says that, we probably all heard this before, you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And what we're going to be doing for 2 hours is we're going to be sharpening that axe. In order to be more efficient at marketing, you have to take that step back and be strategic and have a plan, and it's going to build in, Jillian has mentioned today, throughout the day a couple different times, she likes efficiencies, and so do I. And so a marketing plan is a way to make your time more efficient so you can get back to the actual nuts and bolts of managing your business and letting some of these things take care of themselves. So as I've mentioned, I am what I consider to be a marketing and digital media Jill of all trades. And in my professional career, I've studied everything from graphic design, writing, digital media, web design, email marketing, and just marketing in general. And I've kind of done it all, and I enjoy it all. And I like that, especially for many of you who are going to be the chief marketing officer at your organization, whether you signed up to be one or not, you kind of have to wear all these hats. So I did this earlier, slightly different questions than the questions we had earlier this afternoon, but I'm going to ask the same questions just to get a new baseline. So how many of you operate farmers markets? About the same amount as we had earlier, maybe a few more. How many of you are growers or producers for farmers markets? Okay, how many of you have what I would consider to be like kind of typical agritourism ventures? And then, am I missing anybody that you don't fall into one of those categories? Okay, and so my next question is, how are you currently marketing? So in that sense, I mean, how many of you are currently using social media to market? How many are not using social media? How many of you are marketing through like traditional paid advertising? Okay, digital paid advertising, like things like on digital, you were paying for ads on social media. How many of you are marketing via email? A few of you. How many of you are doing like direct mail or printing out things that you're physical things that we're giving to people. Marketing collateral, okay. And then does anyone have a business or marketing plan that they already have put together? Anybody? Okay. Well, that's what we're here today to do. If you already had one, and we could talk about updating it, but that's a good baseline. So I've broken down the agenda for today into 5 steps of developing a marketing plan. And so from right now until about 5:15, we are going to go over the first 2 steps. We're going to take a break. We'll go through steps 3 and 4. And really, I want to just get a sense for the room. We can get out of here early if you guys want to. We can go through it. I want to be thorough, but we can go through this quicker if we need to. So hopefully our projector cooperates and works the whole time, and we can get through it a little more quickly. Okay, very simple objective today. We're going to develop a basic marketing plan. And I mentioned when I very first started talking that I feel like it's this kind of fine line between, how many of you, have you ever Googled like marketing plan template? Holy moly, it is overwhelming. There are marketing plan templates that exist that their outline of the items that you should include in your marketing plan is 4 pages long. Just the outline with headlines or subheads of the things that you should include. You'll get millions of results. They'll all have some of the same elements. And in my teaching profession, I mentioned that I teach people how to be professional marketing communicators. You bet the professional marketing plans that we develop, Justin just went through my marketing class, marketing campaigns class last semester, and I don't know, I think the marketing plan that his team ended up putting together was probably about 20 pages long by the time it was all said and done, 20 plus pages. We're going to work on a 5-page marketing plan today, and it's a template that I have available for you to download and type into as we go. So, like I said, it's that fine line between being robust enough that it's going to be useful to you, but simple enough that you can actually make sense of what we're working on. And why do we develop a marketing plan? For efficiency. Amen. The word of the day. Yes, we want to understand where we're at. Have you peeked at my slides? And where we're going, you've peeked at my slides, you've cheated. Those are 2 things on my slides here in a moment, where we're at, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. The really cheesy analogy I use in my campaigns classes at OSU is I use the analogy of the guy with a blindfold on, and he's shooting an arrow at a target, but his blindfold's on and he's facing the wrong direction. You can be doing awesome. We learned about Canva earlier, and we learned about making really pretty graphics, and we can be doing what we feel like is a beautiful job on social media, and we can be putting in a lot of work and effort. But if we're aiming at the wrong target, it isn't going to help you actually grow your business. It isn't going to help you be more efficient. It isn't going to help you do what you're doing better. And that's sad because that can be a waste of your time. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to pair up those awesome things and those creative ideas that we have and make sure that it's helping us hit the right target or move the needle in the right direction. Pick your analogy. So I'm going to take a simple approach. We develop marketing plans because we need to figure out where are we now, where are we going, and how we're going to get there. And really the 5 steps that we're going to go through today just are these 3 steps broken into a couple more sub-steps. Okay, so this is where you can download the template. There are on this website, so you can use the QR code if you know how to, you can point your phone camera at that QR code and it'll pull up the website, but then you got to like send it to your computer, or you can just go to okla.st/digital-media-extension. And that's going to get you to, I'll give you a little bit of time to type that in. Or maybe I'll just make it smaller so you can still see that. And that's going to get you to this page. Well, let me make it. Okay, it's going to get you to this page over here on the right, and it says Digital Media Extension, and you can download this marketing plan as a Word document that you can type directly into, or you could download it as a PDF and print it off and handwrite it. Obviously, we don't have printers available to us right now, so you're probably going to prefer the Word document. So I'm going to move this over so you can still see that website there, okla.st/digital media extension. But this is the worksheet that we're going to work through today. And so my slides are going to align pretty much with what we're doing here. And we're just going to take some time to talk through it and talk through how we're gonna go through these 5 steps. So each step gets about 1 page, and that's what we're going to do. So does everyone have this Word document in front of them that they can type into? Do I need to give it just a little bit more time? Are you getting it? It's not downloading? Yours isn't? Is anyone else? Who is having trouble?
But I got 07. I got Word 07.
Okay, that could be the challenge. So the what I would encourage you to do is my Word document, it's got the boxes already built, but essentially the headings that I'm going to have here on this presentation are going to align pretty closely with the boxes here. So it's just not going to be laid out in this pretty way. Okay, just follow along on the PDF, and you might want to type in separately to a Word document or something just to keep your thoughts a little organized. So we're going to start. Our first step is we're going to analyze the situation. That's part of the where are we now. Step 2 for setting goals and objectives is that where are we going? What do we want to accomplish? So let's dive into those first 2 steps. And then later on, we're going to identify our target audience. We're going to plan our strategy and tactics, and then finally set a budget. So with the situational analysis, of course, in a more robust marketing plan, you're going to have vision statements and information about headquarters and boards of directors and how the business is organized. But I'm pretty sure that you all understand your businesses pretty well at this point. So I've simplified the situational analysis into these steps. Just simply what your business or organization name is, your mission statement. So what does your think about, how many of you actually have written mission or vision statements for your organization? Many, that's great. But if you don't, let's take a little bit of time and think about what is your company's main purpose, how does your company provide value to its customers, and then we're going to start thinking about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So take a moment and write down or type into your Word document what you believe your company's main purpose would be. And I'm going to give you an example here in a minute or two. I'm going to give you some time to think without me yammering into the microphone. So it's that the mission statement is more than just we want to sell something. It's more than just feeding people. It's that mission about the so what. What's going to happen if we accomplish this goal? What can we? And generally speaking, a mission statement, and especially a vision statement, is going to speak to what would happen as a result of my business or organization achieving its business goals, which we'll get to later. Another example that I'm going to use, just for the sake of I have examples that I use in my classes, an example that I use is a little bit outside of the niche of the groups that we're talking to today. But the example I use is a hypothetical sports and nutrition supplement company. So similar, but a little bit different. And the mission statement for this hypothetical business called OKLAS Sports is to encourage active lifestyles by offering ethically sourced nutritional products, right? It's just, what do we want people to do? More than just selling products, we want to encourage active lifestyles. So getting a mission statement on paper is really important, because you should be able to, as we go down the worksheet, you should be able to say, this goal helps us get here. This thing that we're doing on this tactic way down the road, or this person that we need to use as a target customer, it helps us do this. So in my, I'm getting the cart a little before the horse. So the next thing that's important to do is to take a really brutally honest look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we've probably all heard of a SWOT analysis before, but the thing that I'm really going to challenge you to do, we can work on it here today, but what I really challenge you to do is, if you have 4 people who are knowledgeable about your business or organization, have each of those 4 people, or if there's 2 people, split it up between 2 people, but each do one of these things. We want to list 3 to 5 bullet points and be brutally honest about the things we're good at and what's working, or things that customers like us. And strengths are things that are internal, things that you can control. You can control your company culture. You can control the quality of produce that you raise. You have control over that. Versus weaknesses are things that you have control over. You'll notice it says, internal for the top line, external for the bottom line, and then positive things for the left column and negative things for the right column. So we can think about it today, right now, but what I really challenge you to do is to get that kind of 360 view and to be really honest. Does your competitor, and I know oftentimes, because I oftentimes have students who work with clients out of the kind of agritourism industry, and a lot of times people say, oh, we don't have competitors. We're all in it together. And that's great, but at the end of the day, there's choices that people make on, even if it's donating to a program. If they're donating to your program, that means they're not donating to another program, or not as much. Or if they are, if you're all working together, if people are coming to your farmer's market and not coming to the farmer's market down the road, even though you both are in it and you don't view each other negatively, it's still things that you're still competition. So I don't like the word competitors. In fact, I don't think that I have the word competitors in here for that very reason, because I don't necessarily like competitors, but think about what you do well in relationship to your own business, but also what other people in the industry are doing. In agritourism venues, people have a choice about how they're going to spend their time. And if they're spending time at your venue, it means they're not spending time somewhere else. And that's not bad. Rising tide raises all boats, or floats all boats. But you are an independent entity. So think about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And these are some questions to help get that going. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to let you kind of think really critically about that. But then I encourage you after the meeting today to go home and really have that external. All right, I find that often is, the hardest part to think really critically. Sometimes things that we don't want to be a weakness, we really just have a hard time admitting that. We might have a hard time admitting we might not be priced within the industry. We might be a little overpriced. That could be a weakness. We might have a hard time admitting, I heard some chatter about whether it was a strength or a weakness, internal communication. It can be a strength and it can be a weakness. Staffing, the ability to scale, Those are things that can be strengths. Things can be weaknesses. So this is often the hardest part to be really introspective about, but it's really useful for the next step of the plan, which is setting those goals and objectives. And it's particularly useful for something called a unique selling proposition. Sometimes people don't like the word selling, right? If we work in a service industry or if we're a nonprofit, sometimes we don't really like the word selling. So you could say unique marketing proposition or position statement. It's that thing that is going to make you different than similar products, places, or people. Again, I haven't called them competitors. They're not necessarily competitors. And then what earns you a special place in the mind of your potential customers? So I'm going to go back to my example of the nutrition supplement company, the hypothetical one that's completely made up. But their unique selling proposition might be something like this. Let me get to my cheat sheet here. Gotta get back to it. So it could be something like choosing the right nutrition supplement is tricky because you can't be sure about safety or potency, and we wanted to eliminate that uncertainty. So we are going to create clean, plant-based, all the jargony words that people like to use, nutrition supplements. So it's something that makes them different than competitors. We want to be transparent about our ingredients. Or maybe our unique selling proposition could be something about your location. It could be something about you operate different hours of operation than other people. Or it could be about the culture while people visit your venue. Or it could be something about your unique production method. There's several people in the room that are doing microgreens, and that's something that's really unique in terms of the overall industry. It might be similar to some people here, but it's still, unique doesn't have to mean you're the only one doing it. It can be something that you're doing that's a little bit different than other similar products, places, or people. So I'm going to give you a little, any questions about a unique selling proposition and thinking about that? Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about that and jot down some notes about what your unique selling proposition might be. And this really will help inform some of our messaging that we do later, some of the things about how do you want to communicate to your target audience and what you want to say to them. This will really inform that. So this is why a SWOT analysis, we're kind of building a ladder with this marketing plan. It's like every rung that you build helps you reach up to the next one, and it makes it a little bit more clear. We're really just building a ladder. Okay, a couple minutes to work on your unique selling proposition. The next step in our plan is the part that probably is the part that is either the easiest for you or the hardest for you. I find that when I am consulting with businesses or organizations, it's either they already have the goals in mind and they need the other pieces to support the goals, or they're doing the other pieces, but they don't really know, where are we headed? They're the guy with the blindfold on and they're just shooting the arrows everywhere and they don't really know what they're shooting at. So you don't have to show your hands, but for the sake of, if you wanted to share, how many of you feel like setting goals and objectives is the hardest part of your marketing? Okay. How many of you feel like, oh, I got that. This is easy. When you set a goal, it's hard to maintain and make sure that what you're doing helps you achieve that goal. Oh, a little bit. Are you limiting yourself because of your statement? Possibly. We can unpack that a little bit. I think that's a really insightful question. Mm-hmm.
And you should write your statement maybe as tentative. Mm-hmm. And then after you go through all the stuff
Your unique selling proposition statement? Or your mission statement? The mission statement. Well, I think that's kind of the chicken or the egg, the chicken or the egg concept. For me, I think it's really important to remember why we're doing what we're doing. Are we doing it to help feed people, but also, Jillian's example was she wants to help, in the immediate now, feed people, but also educate people so they gain a passion for growing their own food for the future. And I think if you keep your eye on a prize like that, it helps make sure that you're drowning out the noise and kind of having your head on a swivel.
And there's always steps in between those two processes that you'll find that will stick their little head up, and you may want to have that, and so don't hold yourself back.
You could. And so I was going to save this for later, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. Your marketing plan is a living document. You're absolutely right. Your marketing plan is a living document. But it's important to have it written down because you can sway from your marketing plan a little bit, but if you don't have that plan as that rudder, you could be way in the ditches. And never really making progress because you're spending so much time going from ditch to ditch to ditch to ditch that you're not ever making any forward progress. I'm mixing a lot of metaphors here. I'm talking about ditches, I'm talking about rudders, but you guys get what I'm kind of saying here. Can't see the forest because of trees. I like analogies. I will use a lot of them. So the part about goals and objectives this is the time when you also need to think about this marketing plan. And what I failed to do at the very beginning of this presentation was say, do we all understand what I mean when I say marketing? I forgot to really set the baseline about marketing. What is marketing? Selling is part of marketing, absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm. Part of that, yes. So selling is part of it. Identifying your customer is part of it. Has anyone ever heard of the 4 Ps of marketing? Anyone took a marketing class in college? Yeah? What are the 4 Ps of marketing? There's 4 Ps and sometimes a 5th. So product, selling is 1. Price, place, and then the 4th P is promotion. And that's mostly what you guys are probably thinking about when I think about marketing. I think about promotion. And then the 5th P is people. So you both were on target. So there's 4 Ps of marketing. Product, what are we going to provide, whether that's a service, whether that's a physical product, whether that's an experience, the product, the price, and setting the price for wherever you're going to be in that market. And it gets a little wonky when we get into nonprofits and we get into service, but for the sake of simplicity today, I'm going to say price. Place. And place means not only where are you going to be physically offering your goods or service, but where are you marketing is included in that. And then the 4th P, promotion, and that's the one that I love. That 4th P is the fun one. It's how are we going to promote this stuff on social media? How are we going to tell people about things? And for the sake of today, when we talk about how we're going to do what we call tactics, we'll talk about promotion mostly, because that's the part I can advise on. I can't really advise you about your product because I don't know enough about it. I can't advise you about your price because I don't know enough about it. But I can probably provide you some advice about how you're promoting those things that you're already doing. So setting the baseline a little bit, 4 Ps of marketing. We're going to focus mostly on the 4th P, which is promotion. But goals and objectives, so this is the time when you need to think about, for this marketing plan, how long of a period do you want to set this goal for? Is it, I heard earlier, Owen, I can't remember, Dave Owen was mentioning his 5-year plan. Kind of got a 5-year plan. That's awesome. If you want to set a 5-year marketing plan, great. Things that you want to do from 5 years from now. Or is it a 6-month plan? Goals that you want to achieve in the next 6 months? Or is it a year? Or is it a combination? You can set some goals that are some short-term goals. For the next 6 months, I want to achieve this. for the next year I want to do this, for the next 5 years I want to do this. That's completely fine, but I think for the sake of, again, not making this too big and unwieldy, we need to set between 1 and 3. And that would be something like, I want to increase sales 20% year over year from 2020 to 2021. That is specific. That is measurable. We're saying 20% year over year sales. It's attainable. It's relevant to my business goal of, if the business goal for, if the organization's mission statement for my OKLAS sports nutrition supplement was promoting active lifestyles, we're going to assume that by selling their products that people use when they're working out is going to support active lifestyles. So it's supporting the mission of the organization. Or it could be things like, we want to expand into an additional market in the next 2 years. We want to, what are some other examples that I'm gonna use my cheat sheet again for my examples of goals that I have preset. Okay, here's another one that's a little more nebulous. We want to be recognized for being socially responsible. That's an objective. It's meaningless. You're right. It's not specific, it's not measurable, it's not time bound. So you can make it more specific. You can say, we want to have partnerships with 5 influencers over the next year who are going to promote us as being socially responsible. It's measurable and it's relevant and it can help move the needle a little bit because they have influence as well. And I like to use this example, again, I like to use a lot of analogies. Who's heard, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars? In marketing, that stinks. We don't want to do that. Because in marketing, if you shoot for the moon and you don't get there, how do you measure how close you got to the moon, right? So you need it to be attainable but not easy. I like to tell my students, is because a lot of them are going to go work at marketing agencies, and I say, if you tell a client that your goal is to get them to the moon, and even if you land among the stars and that's really impressive, your client's going to be disappointed because you told them you're getting them to the moon. So be attainable, but not easy. So take a little bit of time. Dang it, I overtalked, but we were discussing, so it's okay. I'm a little bit behind. Take a little bit of time to think about at least one goal or objective that needs to be that SMART goal. It needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and it has to have a time component to it. So do at least one. I'm just going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to think about that, and then we'll talk about the next one, and then we'll take a break. Okay, and as you're thinking about goals and objectives, if you've written a really specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goal and objective, your key performance indicator, or to use marketing speak, KPI, if you go back to your home and you start talking about KPIs, they'll think I really got my marketing hooks into you. And that's just how you're going to measure success or progress. So let's use those kind of 2 examples that I used earlier about if our goal is to increase sales 20% year over year, your key performance indicator is if you sell more of the nutrition shakes that I was talking about, right? It's really easy to measure that key performance indicator. The example I used of we want to be recognized for being socially responsible and have influencers sharing our stuff, it's a little harder to measure. How would you measure success toward that objective? Yes. And you can also measure on top of that. So sometimes it's not like that's a direct way to measure. I said I wanted 5 and I got 3. But another way to measure would be, okay, if I got 3 and I didn't get to 5, maybe you could measure what's my increase in organic reach on social media after these people who are viewed as influencers in this niche communicated about it. What was my organic reach on social media? Because that's how we measure when businesses are doing good in the community. It seems like people talk about it, right? And on the flip side, and probably more often, businesses get canceled on social media when people are unhappy with what they're doing. And so it's not always a direct one-to-one. The goal and objective written backwards isn't always the KPI, but that's often the case, especially if you're just starting out and doing your first marketing plan. Don't make it overly complicated. Just say what you want to do and how you want to get there. So that's where we're at. We've gone through steps 1 and 2. So I'm going to leave you to continue to think about goals and objectives and KPIs while we also take our break. And then we're going to move into the next steps. So we've kind of done the where we are, where we're going, and our next steps are sort of how are we going to get there and who's going to help us get there. Okay, I'm going to take the pulse of the room. Because sometimes, I have mixed experience with this myself. So sometimes when I sit in on things like this where someone's helping me work through something, sometimes I find it very valuable and I found like I make a lot of progress toward getting the words on the paper. But sometimes I'm like, oh, that's nice that they gave me this worksheet, but I really need to think about this a little bit more on my own and I'm going to go back later. I have experienced it both ways. So show of hands, if you're comfortable, who feel like they're making progress and they're getting words on the paper that they're actually usable for them? About half, maybe a little more than half-ish. And how many are like, this is like drinking from a fire hydrant? There's another analogy. This is like drinking from a fire hydrant. It's too much to think about now, but it might be useful to me later when I go home and I focus and I work on it by myself. Okay, fair enough. I just, if it's completely not useful and irrelevant to you, I'm certainly open to hearing that feedback as well. I'm trying to balance something that's robust with keeping it simple so that it's actually usable for us. And I was up until 2 a.m. working on this last night, so there's a chance that it might not be. Well, it's not that it's not my best work, it's because I spent so long on it trying to make it my best work. So, the next step, I skipped a step, skip 3. Step 3, audience personas. This is the new way of talking about a target audience that I actually prefer. So in the steps, I call it target audience, just so it's something that we recognize as, we understand what a target audience is, right? It's that we're segmenting the types of people who can help us achieve our goals. And we're thinking about what are the types of people. But the really more modern way of thinking about our target audience is actually something called an audience persona. And it's where we are thinking about a fictionalized person, like an actual person that you might know that represents that ideal person. And instead of saying that it's somebody who is 24 to 47 years old, who lives in central Oklahoma and has a disposable income, a family household disposable income of $85,000 a year, and they have 3 kids, and they work in such and such type of job, that's a little less specific. We are going to talk about a specific person. So here's an example. My sports supplement. I'm going to segment my sports supplement and nutrition supplement marketing plan into kind of 2 main groups. We said on one hand, we wanted to increase our sales. And on the other hand, we want to be recognized for being socially responsible, and we want people sharing our stuff on social media organically, and we want that good social capital that comes with people talking about how awesome we are. There's two different types of people who are going to help us get there. And in my example, and there's not a right or wrong, but in my example, I'm going to say that the target audience of the people who might be more willing to buy my supplements, I'm going to say are 24 to 35-year-old males interested in fitness. All right? They're just going to buy the shakes. They're going to drink their protein shakes, and they're going to work out, and they are going to do that. That's a target audience. We'll get to personas in a minute. The other example, because you might relate more to this, the other example is we might look at 24 to 35-year-old females who are interested in health, wellness, and supporting small businesses. And in your mind, you might be picturing one of these two people. But if we really want to target and think about how we're going to talk specifically to somebody about our product using that unique selling proposition, it's better to say, I want to market to a fictional person I'm going to call Holistic Holly. Holistic Holly is a 31-year-old female who is divorced, and she lives in Edmond, and she has a corgi that is named Buster, and she likes audiobooks and podcasts, and she likes running, and she likes wine, and we're starting to picture what this person really is like and how we can market to that person specifically rather than just a 25 to 35-year-old female. There's a lot of differences between Holistic Holly, who I just described, and somebody who is a 24-year-old stay-at-home mom to 3 kids who, struggles to even wash her hair every 3 days, right? There's differences there. They fall within that same target audience, but we can focus our messaging much more if we do this thing called an audience persona. So on your worksheets, I'm not asking you to be quite as specific as I was with my example of Holly, but what I am going to ask you to do is to think about specifically what does the person who's the ideal person who's going to buy your product, or again, in her example of Holly, she's going to just maybe tweet about or post on Instagram about how awesome this product is because it's a locally owned company. So we want to talk about things like demographics, and demographics are facts. They're things that we can look up in the census about a person. We can look up gender or age or socioeconomic status. We can look up sex. Gender is not represented on the U.S. Census, but we can look up their age, socioeconomic status, occupation, where they live, etc. Psychographics are those things behind that makes a person tick. Like Holly, she likes her dog, she likes podcasts, she likes wine, she likes taking pictures of her Starbucks in the morning. And those psychographics are the things that really help us get into the mind of the person. And then the next thing we need to think about, and I've listed here room to do 3 different personas. We're obviously not going to have time today to really dive in really specifically here. But you also need to think about, okay, what are your persona's needs or goals in relation to the service or product, it says service, but the service or product your business provides. Holly, my example of Holly, she needs to feel like the way that she spends her money and her time is meaningful. She doesn't really necessarily like supporting big box stores, but she wants to feel like she's being socially responsible, and she wants her purchases to reflect her social consciousness. And frankly, she's a little narcissistic. She's doing it to feel good about herself, but she's also going to post it on her social media because she wants other people to think that she's awesome too. I understand Holly. I know a lot of Hollies. But on the other hand, okay, let's use another example. The 25 to 35-year-old guy. So the 25 to 35-year-old guy is going to be Fitness Phil, and he just wants something that's going to work, right? He doesn't care about the packaging. He doesn't care about the labeling. Frank doesn't care, or Phil, I've already changed his name. He's got an identity crisis. He doesn't care about stuff like that. He just wants something that's going to work, and that when he takes or he drinks this protein shake before his workouts, that he feels like it's working and helping him get results. And what he enjoys is, I'm harder to get inside the mind of Phil. Phil is 34 years old. He's a little bit older than Holly. And he actively works out, but he's noticing it's harder and harder to get results as he gets a little bit older. Metabolism's slowing down, and he is single, never been married before, and he likes working out, but he only does it because he feels like he has to. He doesn't actually really enjoy it. It's just something he has to do in order to kind of keep up with the Joneses. And so how we're going to communicate with, and his needs and goals, again, are something that is he just wants something to work, versus Holly, who wants her needs and goals are to feel like she makes a difference when she purchases something. Challenges and pain points. So what gets in the way? Does time get in the way? Does money get in the way? Does their personal beliefs about the different products that are, there's a lot of controversy with the products that a lot of you are promoting or selling, or that your growers are promoting or selling. There's, whether we like it or not, there's controversy surrounding anything related to food and nutrition and agriculture and the environment. So what gets in the way? We need to think about that as far as challenges and pain points. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to work through maybe one of these up to this point, and then I want to talk about shared values. Okay. And I thought of this earlier, and Dave brought it to mind, so I'll share. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. The most universally recognized audience persona in the world right now is a lady named Karen. Yeah, Karen's a persona. Karen's a persona. In fact, if you want to get, like my students, this is generally, we build out really complex audience personas for some of my classes, and it's generally one of their favorite assignments, because you get to kind of get inside the mind of somebody and create this fictional character, and unfortunately you might feel like you are being like, you're stereotyping people. But you're not stereotyping people because you're creating a fictional character. And real people have flaws. And we can think about and acknowledge the flaws that real people have in an audience persona without being too stereotypical or biased or derogatory towards people. So, yes, Karen is the best type of audience persona. And also, if you want to nerd out over this a little bit more, just Google like dogs as people or shoes as people, and you will get a lot of memes where people are describing dogs like they're people, and they're kind of a good example and a case study in audience personas. Kind of. Here, I'll just Google it. No, I'm not like Holly. No, I'm not fancy enough to be like Holly. Like, here's an example of dogs as people. So stuff like that. Some of them get a little inappropriate. Of course, the one that we're all grown-ups here. But they're pretty funny. So just Google it. I'm not going to pull it much more because I could run into some risky stuff. Dogs as people. Pretty funny. Pretty funny stuff. But you feel like you know Barbara after you read like 2 sentences about that dog with the wig on. You feel like you know who Barbara is as a person. Okay, our next step is shared values. Here, let me get back to my Word document. Shared values. Okay, shared values is where we've done the legwork and we've thought about our unique selling proposition, and we've thought about our audience persona's needs and their challenges. And this is where, if we are into Venn diagrams, it's where it overlaps, right? The 2 circles. What our unique selling proposition is and what we provide, what their needs and challenges are, and where it overlaps is shared values. It's that piece that's shared. So, for example, for our Holly example, she wants her purchases to reflect her social and environmental consciousness. And if you remember back to our mission, was that the mission statement was to encourage an active lifestyle by offering ethically sourced nutritional products. Our unique selling proposition for this nutrition company was to kind of take the guesswork and add some transparency, and we're going to be 100% plant-based products. That's what's going to get us there. The shared value is that we could say, and again, we're also pulling from our SWOT analysis, and I didn't mention like the SWOT analysis for this, but this is where you also pull from your SWOT analysis, right? Anything out of your strengths or opportunities in that SWOT analysis, you can pull into this shared values as well. So for Holly, our shared values are something like this. Our product is eco-friendly, and we are a locally owned company that's involved in the community. That is what's going to get Holly on the hook to say, I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to take a picture of me holding the package, and I'm going to put it on social media. And that's going to help us achieve that goal of organic reach on social media. Fitness Phil, or Frank, I can't remember what I named him now. Fitness Phil, he just wants something that works. He's going to help us achieve that goal of just selling more stuff. And so our value proposition, or our shared values to Phil, is that our products are scientifically proven to work. You will achieve results faster. It's just straight to the heart of it. Same product, 2 different people that we want to buy it, and 2 different actions we want them to take. We just want Phil Frank, to buy it, and we want Holly to post about it. So you can have the same thing reaching different people. So I'm using, for a farmer's market, generally speaking, because I feel like that's the most common thread among our group here today. We're either managing a farmer's market or selling to farmer's markets are probably 80% of us. What are the types of people who we want to go to the farmer's market? Groups of people. We can talk about groups first. Healthy people, generally? Mm-hmm. Okay. That would be a group. Other groups of people who go to farmers markets. Who do you want to go to your farmers market? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time.
People like to support local business.
Yeah. Sometimes it's less about health and more like that it's local and they understand where it's coming from. They can look someone in the eye who grew that product and know where it came from. What else? Who else goes to, what other groups are we targeting? Yeah, people who qualify for SNAP benefits. Now, there are obviously lots of different types of people who qualify for SNAP benefits. And so it would be hard to target just in general, we accept SNAP benefits. That's a good message. That's a really good message. And that's a message I've been hearing a lot over, because how long has it been that farmers markets have been allowed to do that? Just a few years, right? Or is that a fairly new thing? Or am I just kind of new to understanding that it's a thing? Has it been a while? 5 years, that long? Okay. But it's something that I feel like I see a lot more messaging about in the last couple of years. But there's lots of different reasons why someone might want to choose to use their SNAP benefits at farmers markets. And so by getting inside their head a little bit more, are they a parent? Are they somebody who is retired and maybe on fixed income, right? There's a lot of variety there. Yes, that's a really great group, like moms who are in homeschool co-ops, absolutely. And there are some things, so we could write an audience persona for somebody that fits that mold, that they might even go at different times than if your farmers market is open during the week and on the weekends, you're going to get a different audience at each of those days, most likely. Okay, step 4, strategies and tactics. I'm going to get back to my pretty slides instead of my ugly Word document. Okay, so the shared values, I kind of combined those two steps just a moment ago. I got a little ahead of myself. But that's what we're building, that ladder, right? We talked about shared values, and then the message and the value proposition, that's the hook. That's like the tagline. That's going to be the caption on your social media post to get them to do what it is that you want them to do. It's that messaging that appeals to that persona. So we're going to use that shared values cell, and we're going to write out their message or value proposition. So, for example, with Holly, if our shared values was that our product is eco-friendly and we're locally owned company who's involved in the community, the message to Holly on social media that would get her to pay attention would be probably most likely from somebody else or the owner themselves to talk about what they're doing in the community, right? You're not going to talk about the product. You're going to talk about what they're doing in the community as far as your message. So we're involved in the local community. That's your message or your value proposition. We return 5% of our sales to such and such charity. That's your value proposition to that person. Then finally, we're going to talk about strategies and tactics. Strategies and tactics often get confused. And strategies are things like, it's an approach to achieving an objective, and I have some examples on the next slide. And tactics are, I forgot to update. This is copied from this slide earlier. Key performance indicators. This needs to be updated for each goal and objective. That's not tactics. Tactics are the specific tasks that you are going to undertake in order to go all the way back up that ladder. It's things like the tactics. That's your to-do list. It is, we're going to post 3 times a week on social media. We are going to have 2 events. We are going to do some school outreach. We are going to put an ad in this paper. We're going to get a PSA on the radio. It's all those things, the tactics. And I've got some slides about tactics in a moment, but my description here is not correct. Look how easy it is to edit in Canva and just fix it. Okay, so examples of strategies. I'm the type of person that sometimes examples are more helpful for. So examples of strategies. If you just Google marketing strategies, you're going to come up with a lot of really bad examples. And then also, these are going to be woven in as good examples. So I've filtered through all the Google bad examples to come up with some good examples, and I've thrown in some of my own. So a strategy would be you want to establish authority on a topic. So you could be sharing information about nutrition and food prep in order to attract people to your farmer's market, or in order to buy from you as a grower at that farmer's market, or to bring in new customers. That's a strategy. We don't want to sell more to the people that we're already selling to. We want to bring in new people. Or we want to, the flip side of that, we can get existing customers to buy more. We can introduce a new product or service. We can increase our market share. We can better establish our brand through graphic design using Canva. We can improve customer loyalty, encourage word of mouth, increase market shares in there twice. It must be a great example. Retain existing profitable customers, make customers feel more valued, offer existing customers exclusive offers, or ensuring business stays fresh and new. Those are examples of strategies. Tactics, as I said, tactics would be like, let's take that top example. Establishing authority on a topic is something that's really of the moment. It's really valuable now to do something called content marketing and to provide value to the people who follow you on social media more than just buy, visit, come to us, come see us. So you could write blogs about the healing properties of alpaca fibers and establishing that your authority on that topic, in addition to coming and seeing the cool alpacas and having petting sessions, right? You could, as I mentioned, you could write blogs or share information about proper food safety and food handling techniques in order to establish that you're an authority on that topic. If you're providing value to people beyond just, hey, I'm promoting that I want you to come buy this thing or do this thing or, support me, and it's not purely that overtly profit-driven or business-driven approach, people really value that. I'm going to pull up the Word document one more time. And one thing that I skipped a little bit on, I don't have a specific slide for it. I thought that I did. I had slides that had these things listed, but I don't know what happened to it. With tactics. Tactics, like I mentioned, that's kind of your to-do list. And there's a lot of different ways to list this out as far as like implementing the plan. The plan that I have presented today, this 5-page template, it's nowhere detailed enough for us to think about the real steps that you're going to have to take. That's going to be, and some of you might like Excel spreadsheets for that. Some of you might like just to-do lists. Some of you might like online project management systems, in order to organize like every month, what am I going to do? Am I going to, it's all the little tasks that you have to do. It's launching your website, it's designing your graphics, it's posting it on social media, it is, like I said, putting an ad in the newspaper, it's posting on community boards and groups on Facebook, it's, all of the peer-to-peer exchange of information. This is not an implementation plan. This is just the plan of the ideas. And so the best way to think about all the options for like I said, the 4th P of marketing promotion, there's a lot of different options. And the specific tactics that I want us to talk about and think about are what I've arranged into it's called the PESO model. Paid, earned, shared, and owned. It's another marketing acronym, the PESO model of thinking about marketing, and it's thinking about things that you can do that you have to pay for, things that you can do that you earn the coverage. It's like you do awesome things and other people talk about you, right? You earn press coverage, you earn media coverage, you earn influencers, hopefully, who aren't charging you to communicate about what they like about what your business is doing. Public service announcements, media tours, things like that. Shared media, most social media content falls in this category, and it's where you're producing the content and you're hoping that it's going to expand to reach more people because other people are sharing that content. Other types of content can be shared as well. It could be something that you create a flyer and send it to a school, and the school's sharing it for you. That's shared content as well. And then things like owned media that you have complete control over. You have complete control over what you put on your own website. You have complete control over your email marketing. You have complete control over your blog. You have complete control over what you produce on social media. You don't have control over whether people share it or not, but you have control over what you produce on social media. If you put together a newsletter, all that kind of stuff. So the way that I like to think about it is all the different options you have and just listing them out in this tactics section. And then when you actually go to implement your plan, whether it's a 3-month plan or a 6-month plan, you need to take it a step further and you need to list out every month or a week or however you want to organize your to-do list, kind of what you need to do in order to achieve and work toward this marketing plan. So marketing plans can get longer, right? This is a 5-page one. It can get longer when you're thinking about all that step by step by step. What discussion do we have about this page, step 4, strategies and tactics? Thoughts, burning questions? Yes. And in marketing, the rifle approach is a lot better than the shotgun approach. It really is. It really is. You would rather reach very targeted people who are going to have meaningful, depending on what your goal is, right? But in most cases, you're going to want a smaller group of people who are going to be more ardent supporters than a kind of lukewarm larger audience. Like, you know, a lot of times you'll see people, they get really excited when they'll have 7,000 people see or share a photo that they've done of their, you know, opening day or something. Something really cool happened. But did 7,000 people show up? No. You want, you know, 500 people is going to be a lot better. And those numbers, the 7,000 people who see something on social media helps you get to 500 people who might actually show up. But the better number is generally the people that are actually going to buy or come or support or do that action. Loyalty, absolutely. Okay, the last and final step, I am going to make this a little bit more abstract because I don't really know a whole lot of the ins and outs about where you're coming from. And so I'm going to make it as generic as we can when we talk about a budget. Your marketing budget is really up to you. Most small businesses Large businesses, they're allocating 15 to 18% of their gross revenue every year on marketing. Besides payroll for large organizations, after payroll, marketing is their biggest expense. I understand that for small businesses or organizations or nonprofits are generally between 10 and 12%, but for small businesses, between 5 and 10% of your gross revenue, you should really be investing that in marketing because it takes money to make money. Did you have a hand up? Do we have a hand up in the back? Okay. And so I know that number can get scary. And some of you might be at a point that you're like, I don't even know what my gross revenue was last year. That's fair too. So my recommendation would be, if you can't just all of a sudden say, oh, yep, it's 2021, and that OSU professor lady told me I need to spend 10% of my gross revenue on marketing, and I'm just going to throw money at the problem. Well, I don't think you should do that either, right? So what I think is a more reasonable thing, if you're not really sure if you want to dive off and do 5 and 10%, you could build it based on what you did last year, and just kind of grow from there. Or you could say, okay, my number one priority is this one objective. I have this one objective, and I'm going to spend all my marketing budget on that, and then I'll figure out if I've got room for other things. And by marketing budget, that goes toward, the paid stuff. But you also have to value your time that you spend doing that is part of your marketing budget. The time that you spend, your time is valuable. The tools that you use to do that, things like if you want to pay for Canva Pro, if you need to pay for software and equipment and a nicer phone or iPad to do videos on, all of that is part of your marketing budget too. Another piece of advice is prioritize needs before wants, just like in our personal budgeting, and invest in areas with a higher return on investment. So I mentioned earlier this idea of establishing authority on a topic. That's in the realm of something called content marketing, where you are providing content to people that they might find valuable. That has a really high rate of return. You wouldn't think that it would work as well as like a coupon or, hey, come to this event, but people are going to be more loyal to your business or organization if they feel like you're there to help make their life better. And email marketing, if you're not actively pursuing email marketing, social media is the big, it's big, right? It's just, you can't ignore it, but email marketing is very valuable. And it has a pretty high rate of return on investment to email people directly. If your list is good and it's not just going to people's junk mail and you're providing them with things that are valuable, I recommend email marketing as a good step in toward the right direction of marketing. And then the next steps are, as I mentioned, that kind of timeline, and then thinking about implementation. So we've just talked about what Abe would call the 4 hours of sharpening the axe. And then the next steps, that implementation and timeline, that's the 2 hours that Abe is spending actually chopping down that tree. So a detailed timeline of marketing activities that you plan to complete each month is a really good next step after you actually make the plan. It's not really part of the planning, it's the implementation, but having a beautiful marketing plan and then never doing it doesn't do anyone any good. Okay, questions? Yes, sorry. Yeah, I will tell you that most of my direct experience in the last few years has not been like retail sales of things like with Groupon. So anecdotally, not from direct experience, but anecdotally, I do think that those are very valuable. I think that local marketing is really important right now Google is really, really, you've seen the ads, like the Google ads that are kind of focused on like the Google My Business stuff. So Google, Yelp, Groupon are really important things to do right now in the post-COVID era as people are starting to look for activities that they can do locally. So I would be in support of that, but I don't have specifics about what works and what doesn't. I do think it's a good move, though. Yes. So right now, today, email marketing is more valuable, but I think within 2 years that's going to be more valuable than email marketing. That the direct texting marketing and also direct messaging in Facebook. Like you can actually place ads that are going to give people direct messages in Facebook, but just like everything else, at some point, people are going to get upset about that. But if you're doing it as an opt-in thing, it's a no-brainer. Do it. I think, yeah, texting, direct texting stuff is great. The ones that I actually sign up for, I value. The ones that are spamming me, I get angry at. But if they're signing up for it, they're going to value it. Probably more so than email, you're right. Yep. And even if you don't sign up for like a texting service like that, tools like the Remind app or GroupMe, you know, if you've got a small enough group, those are pretty beneficial. What do you guys think about the conference app? We were talking about the conference app earlier. Like it's a little overwhelming, there's a lot going on, but there's some conversations that are happening on the conference app. Kind of a similar thing, right? We're meeting people where they're at. Well, I appreciate your time today. And I hope that the information that I have shared with you in that template, that you find it to be useful and relevant. But if you were in my Canva presentation earlier, you're hearing this for the second time. And I actually have some clients for this class in the room today that I met last year at this conference. So sometimes even when we have the best of intentions about DIY marketing, or we're going to develop our own marketing plans, sometimes we just need some extra hands on deck. So I do offer this service learning course for senior ad communications students at Oklahoma State University, and they're working with teams like a marketing agency, and they develop some marketing plans and collateral. It's this Oklahoma State AdCom Campaigns website will provide you a little bit of information about that if you're interested in learning more. Here's that website. So there's information about becoming a client and structure of the product, the client application to become a client. I'm accepting applications for our fall semester that starts in August. And then you can kind of look at previous types of clients that we've worked with. We've worked with several agritourism clients before, former clients in the room too. And then some examples of some previous plans that we've worked on. So the students do a great job. It's a win-win situation because they get experience and you get professional level marketing help without the agency price tag that comes along with it. Yep. It was. Thank you very much, Danny, for that endorsement. And I've even changed it up a little bit since you did the class, and now we're actually, like, we just said, here, we've created all this stuff and we handed it to you to do, and now we're actually working on, in the semester, they actually help with some of it because we've realized that it's hard just to hand somebody a panel of a package of stuff and say, now go make it work. So, again, thank you. I'll stick around if anyone has any questions, but it's been really nice to spend the afternoon and stay in touch.